Hello guys, welcome to Ask Raghulan. Today we're going to see how the app market works and how to make revenue from the app market. So that is going to be our focus for today's chapter. So now many of you would have thought, okay, how about we make an app, and how about we become a millionaire, how about we make a game. So there is a lot of things that we might be having, a lot of dreams. So now let's look into the market and how this thing works, and how we can be successful in the app market. Okay, so first thing is the market, app market. As you can see, this is a really one of the biggest growing and quickest growing market. So if you look at it in 2014, that's when the app starts picking up, and a lot of people starts getting smartphones, and that's a period. All right, so that's a period you're looking at around $97 billion on app market. When talking about 2014, so that's when smartphones are just getting popular. And then you're looking at 2016, just 2-3 years ago, and the market is around $218 billion. Now you can see that's actually a massive growth, twice. And then looking at 2018, it's 400 billion. So that's actually twice again in a period of 2 years time. So now the projection for 2023 is going to be around $935 billion. So now that is a sort of market you're looking at it. So now if you want to capitalize on that sort of market, you've got to have the things that you can go and capture the market, and you can make some revenue out of it. So to start with, if you see in the app market, let's say Google Play Store or Apple Play Store, Apple App Store, so there is like a whole million of apps that you can find in there. So now, are they all making money? Answer is no, of course. So the reason why they are not making money, so the first choice would be like they have not reached the target audience, or there will be better apps which is serving and satisfying the target audience. So now how we get into that market, and how we can be distinguish ourselves, and then how we make revenue out of it. So you don't have to be unique. So if say like there is plenty of apps like Tinder, plenty of apps like Facebook, they all have audience, and some of them are successful, some of them are making revenue, and some of them has got some seed fundings to move further. So that's how these things start. First point is you don't have to believe that you should have the unique idea. You can take an existing idea, make it better, and then capture an extra market or grab some market from the market leaders. So that is what a lot of people do. So now let's quickly get into understanding the market in the first place. So first is you're looking at platforms. So there are 3 types of platforms you're looking at it. So first is your Windows, that's like your regular Windows machines and Windows Server, a lot of these enterprise applications which are still runs on Windows. So I'm not talking about Windows Mobile. So we all know that Windows Mobile is not as popular as it used to be, like before 2014. If you look at smartphones before 2014, there is like plenty of apps, plenty of mobile phone manufacturers. They used to make phones which is called Symbian, Windows OS, and Java OS, and a lot of these ones. So now we don't see those kind of things. Probably you will see it on more like an enterprise segment, but not in the consumer segment anymore. So the Windows Mobile market is not that big, but the desktop market is still large. And then the Android, of course, Android is the biggest of all the platforms. So you're looking at Android being the sort of like a number 1 player in the marketplace, and then looking at iOS. So now we got 3 platforms to target. So when you want to make an app, you want to first identify who is your target user and which platform they use most. So based on that, you go and target your development, targeting that particular platform. So that is your first thing. So first finalize which platform you're going to focus most. If you're going to look into app development, you're looking at Android and iOS. So that's pretty much most of the phones you're looking around has. So then type of app that you're going to build, whether it's a game or non-gaming apps. So now this is another thing that you need to seriously consider before you get into it. So games and non-games, they both are separate genres, and the tech resources that you find, they come from different walks of life, and you've got to handle things much different compared to games and non-game developers. The reason being is, let's say if you're developing a non-game app, which is like a calculator for an example, or a to-do app. So the developer you're looking into, let's say if you're going into hybrid or a native apps, there are 2 types of apps. We'll go to that a little later. And if you're going to build a simple app, you just need to design the app, and then go to, let's say, Android developer, and then probably if you need a backend, you need a backend developer, and then you develop it and then publish to the store. So whereas with the games, there is quite a bit of things that happens. So first is you have to design your game, that is like not just the screens of the game, not just the user interface. We're talking about the gameplay, game levels, and characters, character storylines. So there is a lot of things that goes in there. So you have to be like a movie script editor or script writer. I mean, so that is the first step we're talking about. And then you go into a 3D artist or 2D, depending on what type of game you're going to focus. And then now you are in a segment where you have done the second step, which is producing the artwork. So now you go into the next stage of developing this game. So now this is where you take your artwork, you take your screen storyboards, and then you build the actual game with the gameplays and everything together. So now this is where you need to find really good talent. The reason being is the games, it's not like a plugin, just not like just writing code and you're going to get it. So people need to have basic understanding of physics. So let's say if you're doing a car game, so the cars has to roll on the road, and when it hits a bump, the suspension has to go up and down. So a lot of little physics they need to understand. So, and also a little bit of logical thinking that has to go in there. So the game development is a little bit far more difficult compared to the app development. So there is also another segment of game development where people reskin apps. That means they get an existing game, they buy the source code, and then they go and reskin it. So that is also one of the biggest market that's out there. You can do that, but you may not be able to meet the original guys who made it. Let's say if you want to get a knockoff of Angry Birds, and then you're going to change it to Angry Fish, and then you're going to put a game in there. So it might be successful, but people know that you're a knockoff. People are not going to believe that you got a unique idea, you made it out of a unique idea. But it's not always that. Even the bigger game studios, sometimes if you look at it, they have actually borrowed references from some of the other games. So if you look at some of the bigger studios who have made, I don't want to name the studios, but some of the games which is like a typical gangster games, if you see the gameplay is similar to GTA, so it's like, they obviously borrowed it, and they would have been a vivid or very hardcore GTA fans. So that could be true as well. So now that's the first thing you need to think about. So what type of app you're going to focus? Either it's like a regular app that people use it every day, or is it going to be games? So that's the first thing. But remember, game market is on the rise. So that means it's booming. So a lot of people making games right now, and a lot of games are really good at this stage, and a lot of studios are doing successfully. So yeah, that's another thing. And next thing is end user. Who's your target end user? So are you going to focus fintech apps? Are you going to make banking apps? Or are you going to focus on retail segments? Now you remember, when you're talking about banking, we also have a new segment called cryptos. Probably I'll go through another chapter on crypto wallets and making crypto apps and coins and a lot of these things. But first thing, banking apps. So you can focus on customers who's keen on managing, let's say, funds, or managing budgets, or you can make a fintech app to store all the receipts. A lot of these things you can make apps targeting that users. And another one is a retail segment. So retail segment is, let's say you want to build an app like eBay, like a platform where people can advertise or sell their products. So what sort of retail market you want to focus on? So that's another thing you can do it. And then airlines, so let's say saving boarding passes or travel tips. Travel is a huge industry, we know that. So even a shopping cart based app which sells, let's say, specialized bags for people who carrying music instruments or something fragile. So it's like you can find needs for people out there, and there is still lots of apps that needs to be made. So airlines, media, of course, media is like pretty big area. You can make educational games or educational video based apps, educational apps where people can actually, let's say, learn mathematics or science or physics or whatever it could be. So then we got transportation. That's, of course, if you want to find the locust nearest train, bus stops, or even app like Ubers, Ubers and Olas, and a lot of these apps made they're floating in billions. They have got raised a lot of funds, and they're doing pretty good. And then we got hotels and restaurants. So that is actually a pretty big segment, because any part of the world that you go through, you're gonna find restaurants from every walk of life, from every region. So let's say you go to any country, you will find Chinatown and a lot of Indian restaurants. So that's pretty common. So now looking at millions of restaurants in each country. So you can come up with an app. Even if you get, let's say, around 10 clients use your app, it's still big. So not everyone is on Uber Eats, not everyone is on Menulog or any of these apps. So you still got a market. And then government. So government is going to be pretty little difficult, because you're going to focus on bidding on tenders and things like that. So that's going to be a way too difficult for indie or individual developers, to get into that market. So now the other markets that you can get into is, like, say, anything that you look at it, like, say, when we talked about travel, we also have bikers, let's say, people who with trailers. You can build apps for trailers, or IoTs if you want to connect some sensors or turn on and off switches, and anything that you want to think about it. If you think that there is, let's say, 1,000 people who needs this app, if you just develop an app and if you charge, let's say, $100 per user, because your app is the only one who does that to the 1,000 users, and there you go, you got some revenue right there. So just making an app serving just 1,000 people. So now we're talking about a globe of 7 billion people. So you can imagine the size of market. And then some of the other things you need to look into is the regions. So there is like 4 types of region. I can classify this one. One is the North American region, and then Europe, and then Asia Pacific, and then rest of the world. So of course the biggest region is going to be the first 3: North American, Europe, and Asian market. Asian market is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, because every Asian country now they actually got quite a bit of growth. So now a lot of people can afford smartphones, and with that one you're getting because that's where the biggest population is. So now that's going to be, I think, the future, because you're looking at literally close to 70% of the whole world population just living in this one region. So now if this region reaches 70 to 80, 90% of smartphones, then most of the revenue that we talk about here is going to be coming from this one. So look into how to attract that particular market, because if you are coming from this origin, you might actually know how your culture works and how your region people think, and a lot of these things. Use that for your advantage, and then build something. And then rest of the world is a very small market, so you're not going to make much out of it. But if you got some niche space that you can make and make apps and serve people, that's a good way. And so then app development. So there are a few stages in app development. So this is not detailed, just to give you a little overview. So first is write down your scope. So make sure that you write down your scope. You may be a non-technical person, so you may not have done this before, but my suggestion is write down the scope, and in such a way that take a reference from another app, and don't try to be too ambitious, because when you're building the app from scratch the first time, if you're a non-technical person, and if you make it like a very big app, then you spend a lot of money and time, and sometimes people take you for a ride, and then you end up achieving nothing. So it's best always to focus on chunk by chunk. Let's say in stage 1, just build few features, put it to public, and test the market and see how it works, and then build some more features on the second stage and third stage as you grow. So that could be one way to go, but make sure that you write a decent scope document. My suggestion is, probably I'll go through another video on how to do a simple scoping document for building mobile apps. So that helps you to build a little scope document. So that is one thing you need to do it. And the next one is the wireframe. So this is also a very good thing, because what you can also do is before you get into touch with any companies or getting some cost and quotes and things like that, prep yourself, so that way you are aware what's happening in the market and people are not taking you for a ride. So the next thing that you can do is you can hire any UI UX designer, and just them, you don't need a developer or anything like that. Just get them and then talk to them about the scope. And if your project is bit vast and more complex, it's best to get in touch with probably a business analyst or a solution architect. So figure out how to do this wireframe. So the wireframes are nothing but screen by screen, how the app is going to look like, what all the features it has, how it travels from one screen to another screen. So that is all we're looking at here in the wireframe. So nothing more. So don't make it too complex, make it easy for any layman to understand this one. So that is your wireframe. And then once you finish this one, get few quotes from developers and see who you can work well and who fits best within your budget and the time frame, all of these parameters. And also make sure that you check their past work and things like that, because some of the developers, what happens is, like say, they would have developed a lot of apps, they would have got experience, but let's say if you're building an app for a beauty salon, and if they are a person who doesn't have an eye for detail, who is not artistic or creative, and they might get the job done, but the app is not going to entice the users who pretty much your customers may not be impressed with the app. So you need to find someone who understands your requirement in a way that you want it. So that is another important thing. And then develop it, test it, develop it, test it. It's a loop. So the reason being is, you develop something, you test it, give it to few people, and then find some issues. If you find any issues, just go back again. If your project is so serious that in terms you're investing a lot of money, my suggestion is get few iPhone versions and then few Android versions, some of the major versions with the different form factor sizes as well, because the Android phones and the iPhones, they range from different sizes. This older phone starts from 5 inches and stuff, and then now we got the XL/S versions and a lot of these ones which is like bigger versions, close to like say tablet version 7 inches and stuff. So get few form factor phones and test it on all of them, because just because you got one phone, I tested it, it works. No, it's not going to be, because your app, if you're going to focus on publishing into Android and iOS, then you got two platforms, that the apps are two different apps. They're not one app, they go into two different platforms. They are separate apps. Remember, that's for native. If you got hybrid apps, then of course the centralized code is one, and then you make one for Android, another for iOS. Still the front end, some of the front end components are independent, and they may actually look different and work different on individual apps. So it's always best on both of these platforms. So that's another thing. And then revenue. So how are you going to make money from the app? So you're not going to go and do it for charity. If so, then you don't even have to look into the section. So that means if you're giving it free, so that's it. You don't have to go into that sections. But if you want to make revenue, how you do it? Two ways. So there's a lot more other ways, but for now, two ways. One is the Admob, and another one is the in-app purchases. So if you look at Admobs, is like some of the games will spam you with a lot of ads because they want to make money. And so another one is, let's say they'll ask you to purchase an upgrade in a game, or if you want to use a camera with a lot of filters, just purchase this extra filters and stuff. So that is in-app purchases. Another option is also you can ask the user, give a user to like say trial of 15 days. After that, they buy a monthly or a yearly subscriptions or a one-off fee to keep the app on their device. So different ways you can monetize your app. And then once you finish it, because all this stuff is basically, it's all within your hands, and it's not yet being into the public. So moment you finish all these works and you go to public, now you need to market your app, because you got a revenue model. Only when people come into this one, you're going to make money through these revenue models. So now you go into market. So now different things you need to do it to attract market. So first thing is the ads. So of course, when you're focusing on selling your apps, my suggestion would be there is different streams, different things that you can try, and my suggestion would be Google ads. Google ads are very effective, and there is an option where you can actually throw an ad in there just for downloading apps. So that means, let's say if you spend $500, you might end up getting 200 to 300 downloads. So straight away, you're not actually spending on TV ads and a lot of these things. Straight away, you put some money, you get some downloads. And because that is your end goal, so all you need is downloads to make revenue from the revenue model that you have applied on your app. So the second thing is a promo video. So a lot of people don't do this one. Even if you go to Play Store, App Store today, and if you check a lot of these apps, some of these apps doesn't even have a promo video. They would have got million downloads and stuff. Of course, if they would have made the revenue, they don't care about it. But the promo video helps people convince what they're trying to download, because now people are a bit more reluctant to click on the install button. The reason being is there is a whole bunch of apps in there, even on their phone, so they don't want to keep installing apps. So they want to see what this app can offer, whether this is a scam and whatever it is, and then only then they want to install it. So the promo video help people convince it, because by just clicking on a button, they don't have to read through the entire description. So they don't have to swipe through all the images to see all the different screens. So the promo video is going to explain what the features of the app, how you're going to get benefited, and if there is a cost, how much is the cost. Everything is going to be on the promo video. So keep it simple and do a promo video. It's not expensive. So my suggestion is do a promo video, and then you can promote it on your Facebook page and YouTube channel. And my suggestion is that time when you write your scope and then you finish your wireframe and then you're going to hire the developer, the same day that you hire the developer, you get your Facebook page and YouTube channel started, and then start promoting with some content. So the reason is, let's say if you want to sell something, you need customers. So now when you finish everything and then if you try to look for your customers, your marketing expense is going to be very, very high. The reason being is, if you're going to be new to marketing is very expensive area, and people will definitely get you big bills, and also the results not going to be that high because you're still learning how the marketing works. So my suggestion is, start it as soon as you get your development started, so that you get to learn a lot of these things. By the time you finish it, you already have a Facebook page with quite a few followers, and then YouTube channel with some followers. So when you put it in there, you already have thousands of users who's going to see your app, which is like free marketing in first place. And then write a blog. Even if you're not a blog writer, you can hire some cheap blog writers, and then make sure that you read through some of their works and then give some feedback and make sure that they get into your groove, so you don't get into their groove. So because you understand the app very well compared to them, so it's best that you give them the instructions and guidelines on what needs to be there, so they get to do what you want. And then write some blogs. So where do these blogs go? So you need something called a landing page, because let's say if I build an app called Crypto Navigator. So what I do is I register a website called cryptonavigator.com, and then I create a blog section in there, put some blogs in there saying that how my crypto navigator is the best, and why bitcoins are performing very well compared to Ethereum, and a lot of these things. You can write some fancy articles with some sort of interesting keywords which get some viewers. So when people get into your landing page, they get to know that you're building an app and that's going to be out, which is related to cryptocurrencies. So they're going to be keen. So they'll be just waiting for your app to come down for sale. So they will be one of your customers. So next is your backlinks. So the backlinks is like, say, a whole bunch of websites and forums and magazines. They have these sort of e-magazines as well, even Forbes. So they write articles, hundreds of articles almost every week. So what you could do is you can go to these guys and then you can pay for backlinks, saying that when they write an article, they'll say like say this is one of the best crypto app that you can find online. It's going to be out in 2 months, and then they're going to put your name and link in there. So that is called a backlinks. So you can purchase some backlinks, and then that will boost your site's visibility to others. That's pretty much your SEO, helps in SEO as well. So along with this stage, of course, you will be doing your SEO and a lot of other social media works, which is what we're doing here, and that's what gets you to people. So now this will get you downloads. So you will have downloads, so the downloads will increase. But now, as soon as I download, are you using every app every day? No, only when you need it, you're going to use that app. So now you're going to see how to make the user come back to the app often. So that is another challenge that you need to do. Sustaining users, because you don't want people to install it, try it, and then uninstall it. You have to make sure that you sustain the users. That means see why they're uninstalling, ask their feedback, ask their survey, and then fix the things, improve it, so they stay on the app. So that's the most important factor, not just building it, making it download, because all your efforts here will go in vain if you don't do this task very well. So that's important. And then feedback, listen to the users. So if you got a Play Store account, Apple account, you will get reviews. If your app's getting downloaded, people will give you reviews. Make sure you respond back straight away, because no one is going to look into your replies after a few weeks. So respond back to it straight away, so they remember what they talked about your app, and then they'll like you because you're responding to them straight away. So that's another thing. And now once you got it, you got a whole bunch of users. So now that's all the people who have downloaded the apps. So now you need to understand what is their interest and what is the age group that your group is having. Majority of the age group, gender, beliefs, language, and location. So this is all the analytics data that you want to get, so that you can get it from the store, or you can integrate third-party solutions which gives you that information. So that tells you different sections, what is your age group of the users, what gender, and all this information. Now based on that information, you need to build some more apps and then target that your audience, capitalize on that market. All right, that's the end of the chapter. And thanks for watching, and subscribe to the channel, and if you have any questions, just feel free to ask us, and we'll happy to assist you. Thank you so much.